I think I have a few ideas I want to think about. So first of all is... yeah, it all pieced out for me. Such an interesting idea that I kind of circle back to the idea that I shouldn't be expecting to really program games, but more of a be an idea man for games. And when people think about ideas or a person managing the game ideas, they kind of underrated a person like that. I don't know. It doesn't seem like a job because it simply doesn't if you ever was frustrated about any game, you will understand what idea manager would do. The man of ideas, baby. This piece is my bad feeling about the work environment that I'm in, that distracts me from how I used to do stuff. I wasn't really making up ideas when I was making Spawn the Creeper's Forge, a game that is about simply collecting stuff and unlocking new areas. So that is something to think about. But this might be a very cool grey board to start with, because this idea has been floating around. I was thinking like, oh yeah, anyone should want to hire me. Anyone in the gaming industry who has a game that doesn't fully function to attract certain people to go through. And I was watching the video about settlements and how in Fallout 4 it's a disappointment. And I was figuring out like there's a certain way that I play a Fallout game, and in fact this might be the way to look at the game, how other people play it. You know, okay, I challenge myself to not die a single time, but at the same time the Fallout 4 and Skyrim and all the other games just try to deliberately kill me with explosive, with some kind of shocking shock value effects. Oh, there's a mine over here, so I have to pick up a skill, level it up to level 3 and shit. And even when everything was right, I was cruising through the game carefully, shit happened that I cannot explain. It just died all of a sudden, and it was so fucked up. So even when everything is right, of course I don't count bugs, except scorpions. A scorpion was probably the most vicious thing that has followed me ever in the game. From anything I could run away from a death claw I can run away from, but the scorpion is fucking ridiculous. Oh well, I guess I'll learn over time. I have to keep on playing. But something is kind of disappointing from my point of view. And in the settlements, looking at the settlements, I would think there's a few things that can change in the game. So you kind of want to settle down because you're gonna keep on gathering resources. You will try to connect the settlements so you can have ability to sleep properly. You have to store your items, to sell your items, to get to know with the people, tell them what you're doing, how you're scavenging. Of course, to create something like that in a single player environment is fucking retarded already. So I don't know. It doesn't matter how much care Bethesda puts into the game. If it's not available for multiplayer, it's not gonna take off. I fear that. It has to be a hit for a single player experience. It has to be a hit experience that way. And it's meant to be played not that way at all. Not roguelike way at all, but again, it's like not the problem at all. Single player is not a problem at all. Ah, damn. So if I look at it that way, in order to make like proper settlements, you rather would look at a multiplayer experience, just like Minecraft kind of evolved into that, because you don't really. How would you play in Minecraft? Because you just kind of settle down, but there's not much to explore there. How would you settle down in Minecraft? Why would you even create settlements? You wouldn't. You might create a mine. You might create choke points where you kind of settle down. One cool part was when I kind of tried to create a map out of all these settling downs. You kind of try to create a map where other people can play that. That was somewhat interesting, and that is somewhat what sparked my interest in map making in general. It was the first time I tried to do it in just vanilla Minecraft. I was going from place to place, placing a few points of interest or settlements as I just walk around the place, and it's really interesting actually. When you play it back, you kind of try to piece out a story, how a person went through the whole thing, and it's a lot shorter, of course, to just look around rather than actually do stuff. So yeah, you would get to a place, try to settle down, pick materials, put it in one place. How does that translate into Fallout 4 experience? Doesn't really have to be multiplayer to be successful. I don't know. It's something weird because you kind of want multiplayer experience to actually create interactions, NPC interactions, but that would kind of be weird as well. So perhaps not really. Yeah, the multiplayer interaction just really complicates everything. If you want to balance things out, that's where he has to go through the single player first. So the only thing is missing, settling down. You want to ask people not to give you quests, but actually ask them to settle down. Maybe you can start building something for yourself as a detach. Store some stuff, I don't know. Kind of prep, settling down. Say, okay, I accept this quest. If you're not being violent, you're not, you're just attaching something. or there should be enough stuff to do around the area, pretty close by, where you don't have to actually go all the way out, clear a dungeon, which is pretty hard to clear, and then come back and then you can settle down. That shouldn't be an immediate thing. That should be, again, gradual. The Fallout 4 doesn't do it. Doesn't do gradual things. You already know everything. You just have to pick up perks and shit. So that's kind of annoying. The best thing about questing is learning things. So until games realize that, it's not gonna be a good gaming experience ever. Again, I'm trying to be the idea man, and it's a lot of work, right? Like that is a lot of work, just piecing ideas together. Although, when Idea Man is not employed, he starts creating his own engine and shit like that. So he's trying to create his own world instead of helping the other worlds grow. That's why I said, like, if AdventureCraft was still around, yeah, I would have stayed and keep on building that shit up. I don't even know after 5 years what would have happened. Like, what the fuck can you do in 5 years? I couldn't have Alright. So I wasn't able to recreate Spawn the Creeper's Forge within 5 years. Every single year I was trying to do it, but no. Not happening. Okay, 1 year maybe, after 3 years maybe I just reshaped how it works, kind of. But now after 5 years, Windows 10 baby. And I cannot fucking run AdventureCraft anymore. RIP AdventureCraft. That's how it all ends, basically. Unless I dedicate myself this year to be, for sure, focused on this stuff. But I cannot promise, right? As I'm piecing my own engine and stuff like that. Something that a lot of people just went through already. I'm saying, oh, I'm just gonna do it on my own. Not really. That's not how it works. Obviously. But I'm just saying, like, if people knew, I would be helped. If I could communicate somehow, I would already find someone to hire me. Should I try sending a message for Bethesda saying, oh, I am an idea man. I make a lot of good ideas of how things should work. What was the other thing? The other thing was the whole gaming industry seems to be in a little bit of chaos state. I really don't know what to play. I just don't know. I would love to play something. And this top ranked games, you know, kind of helps figure out what's good out there. Sometimes there's a good game popping up, like Undertale. Oh, play this. That's a cool game. Sure. It's kind of actually weird. Because I have kind of preference for games, especially like these turn-based RPGs are not something I want to handle. Even something like Legend of Zelda is not something I want to try to handle. So I never tried it. And it's kind of weird, right? Like, what the fuck are you doing, idea, man? You should play games. You should have a variety of adventures. And perhaps that is what I'm missing. The crystal energy of understanding a lot of things. A lot of games. I'm not a game reviewer, so I don't think that's the case for me. That I should actually take control of this energy. I know a lot of stuff by now, and I'm trying to keep on learning in that sense. So I cannot take control of that. It's definitely one of the weakest things that I have in mind. I don't have a lot of skill. I know a lot of stuff. I can generate a lot of good ideas of how things should work. But again, there's another idea of inspiring people to play a certain way, to challenge people to do certain things. You can piece out a very generic thing that Fallout 4 is, okay, you got a lot of freedom, explore this, but that's not how I try to play that anymore, so what's wrong with that? No longer trying to experience. I feel like I generally have enough. Once you start thinking about it, it just feels like you have generally enough experience. Simply because you start thinking. And you generally generate enough Did you find a better place to talk? Just closer, more annoying? You fucking... Because I cannot find a better place. I bought this, okay? I bought this room and I just don't have anything. There's so many expectations that you should be able to put forward when settling down, right? In real life, it's the same problems. You have to communicate what your expectations are. And the game has to recognize that somehow. But it's not impossible. In fact, that is why I had this idea of one button game and would kind of evolve from very simplistic point of view. It's very simplistic. Press the button, alright, something happens. Something starts to appear on the screen and you start to see like XP bar increasing and shit like that. Oh, you want to finish that, what's gonna happen next? And then you see, oh, level 1 now. And then you keep on increasing, the things get more and more complicated. Where am I going with that? You should be able to see an increase in options, what you're able to do. And this way, a person is not overwhelmed with what he should be doing. There's not too many things, so you can always settle down and explore things. That's why that's why I mentioned the quest system for settling down. If you complete the quests, you're gonna be able to control the area, kind of. So you're able to control points of area more and more so. And that is a great idea. Again, it just has to be gradual. A lot of things that Bethesda does, it tries to do things too quick. It happens way too often. It tries to give you this impression of the game. And that's fine. That still can be very simplistic and very gradual, right? Oh, I want to shoot stuff. Alright. But it tries to do so many things at once that the game like tries to think, oh, you want to do this and that and this and that and this. No. You actually put a person into interactive focus. Right? You don't actually give him a lot of tools to work with, but he has to settle down with the game first. Then the game kind of opens up in the way the player demands it to, or kind of bends it to open up. So there's a lot of choice involved as well. And for a game to be able to be flexible enough, to be interesting enough, and free enough, and then you take all the data, what was unexplored from the game, and you try to make it interesting, or try to make a DLC out of it or whatever, so unexplored areas all of a sudden very relevant to what the game is. So there's so many ways you have to look at the game as a gradual experience, and that's why Minecraft is the best game ever. And it kinda like shocks me right now. It did everything right. Everything right. Not only that, AdventureCraft was also one step forward, where people would get sick of Minecraft really quickly. I found myself creating stuff in a whole new level. And this is probably worth creating a blackboard for. I was thinking about that already, and I have to make it a blackboard, kind of like tribute to Minecraft, tribute to AdventureCraft, saying that this was the best thing that ever happened, and it's absolutely ridiculously hard to recreate. But perhaps someone is willing to do that. I would kind of make that. It seems like Warcraft, but I'll just gonna put this A. So mixing up the M and A. So reverse M becomes into W with this shit. Good enough, right? It's tribute to both things. In fact, Spawned is exactly how it looks like. Except with this C. It's supposed to be engine. So, Spawned. Or I could just say both of these are reversed. So it's like C. Alright, I like that. It's like Minecraft. Hidden in Spawned. I really like that. So things like that, the idea man comes up with, the whole essence of the game. I mean, that's why games live for a long time, and that's why it's so important to release them properly actually release them in the early stage, but you actually giving people the expression that you will be further updating the game, and that they can either hop in, wait a little more, do whatever they want until they actually find the right time for themselves when they can actually enjoy the game, right? So whenever I heard about Minecraft, I just tried it. I loved it, and I kept coming back, checking out the updates. It was a pleasant experience that kept me interested. And whenever you come back for a game, it is never... It is probably the most powerful thing a person can do, is come back. Is the most powerful thing in general, because you come back, you have all these things that you have collected, all these experiences, and then you come back again, try to recreate certain things, and you're able to do it just slightly better. It's all great, right? Just like I would come back year after year for Spawn the Creeper's Forge, kind of check out if I can tweak a few things, but this time it was impossible. And I just feel cut off. It is such a... That's the only reason why Minecraft failed. Because Adventure Guard failed for me. And Adventure Guard failed simply because there is no stable platform that you can put yourself onto. Put a mark onto. If that's not happening, then yeah, it is gonna be a very tough time for games until there is a stable platform. You just have it, and you can just update along with the platform. But it's really easy to access, right? Like it's open source and shit. But yeah, it was happening most of the times. You know, ideas like Mario just kept on hopping from platform to platform consistently. While success of Minecraft was carried out to other platforms as well. This is something that simply happens. Why did Minecraft failed? Now, like there's not much interesting stuff going on. One of the biggest, shocking, and most interesting parts in Minecraft history was Hunger Games. That was something really crazy. Something that you have to watch other people do. And this is where I come back to the way that you can play the game. It always... the people, the community that plays the game a different way always inspires you to try different things. And not only that, this is where the idea men come from, right? These are the people that play the game in a different way and actually have to influence the game creators to embrace these different ideas of how you can kind of exploit the game, but in terms of making it actual gameplay, not just an exploitation of the game. Because I am gonna admit, what I'm doing in Fallout 4 is kind of a exploitation. It is not meant to be that way. That you don't die at all. That is something that the creators of Fallout just doesn't really want to give out like that. That it wouldn't surprise you with all sudden deaths or difficulty spikes. Yeah, it doesn't surprise that much after they added a few name tags. So I had some problems with Skyrim because you take a normal bandit and you take a bandit that has a tag, a name tag. Same goes with raiders, I believe. So they have raider scum and shit like that. They're like twice as healthy, right? Have twice more health. It doesn't very much. It is such a annoying thing for RPGs to just quickly advance. But the whole thing kind of boils down to numbers, simply numbers, right? 1 and 2 are so different numbers. You see, the 2 is like 100% more than 1. And even if you look into like 12 into 13, you still have around 9% to work with. That is more. So still, at that point in the game, the changes are so significant that if you look at small numbers, you'll always see problems with them. That's why I generally like a completely unused idea where you either hide the numbers that try to represent the slight increases that you can't really see properly, but you should be able to basically allow the player to increase that number times like whatever the number they want to see, right? Or they're able to handle, to chew, right? Basically, you want player to gradually discover that he has been making important choices. He has been, or he is able to do certain things, and this will actually impact the amount of damage he does or health he has, while beforehand he just saw some hearts or something like that, and he really didn't knew that it was kind of gradually giving him the advantage. Stuff like this is what I'm looking at for the future, where you step out of the zone of these whole numbers. They're really small and very significant in terms of change. So that is something that RPGs try to get away from, but at the same time they overwhelm people with this visual data that they might not want to see. So the best compromise, I think, is giving people the mystery behind numbers, but that they are able to reveal it as they wish to do it. And yeah, there has to be a lot of testing as well beforehand. There has to be some kind of test ground. I imagine like almost everything in gaming has to be tested properly. Like balance is actually one of the most connected things, or game engine is one of the most connecting things in gaming in general. And that is why I still motivate myself to build an engine, even though what I struggle with is visual engine. I actually should think about an idea engine, right? How to sell gaming ideas into a state of balance, where you can just simply reskin or put things in proper places that you want to do. Basically make your adventure without actually bothering yourself, or actually just putting a trust onto how ideas are being made, of how everything works. Putting a trust into the engine. And knowing that you can actually impact. If you want your voice to be heard, you become an idea man. You use the engine in a certain way. You become big at that thing, and you're like, okay, I want these ideas, right? So it seems like I'm a bit higher than that, like I'm a platform for the idea people, which would mean at the same time that such platform would take even higher notice, that would try to suck in all these ideas from other people as well. So I'm not really an idea generator, I'm an idea compiler. I'm trying to get the most value out of all these different ideas that are available, right? That's a little bit different. Of course I'm able to generate ideas. That's one of the things that fuel me, basically. I'm fueling myself to generate value. And the problem solving is one of those ways to go. You don't really solve problem with idea generating, is settling down with an idea that has the most value, or trying to combine ideas together usually results in such solution that has the most value. So always try to combine ideas. This is the key component, right? In general, yin and yang, you have that aspect, and you always follow that. Whenever things don't conflict, and usually they don't to a certain degree, you can combine them into one, into a pattern. So this is the way I would see it. I guess these are the three hell bars after all, except it's not blue, and not that green is supposed to be yellow. The hell bar should be purple, not blue. Alright? Maybe we can settle down on hell bars as well. You want to kind of enter the game with an idea that life is game, and that we have solved, we have gained all this knowledge of how to make games simply because we kind of settle down what life is. So a philosopher like me would be able to settle down on ideas. So cool. It is very cool. It's kind of also weird. There's something about every single person that is into self-development, but also shares and talks with people. Stefan Molyneux, Mark Passio, I don't know what the last name of the Leo is, which runs actualize.org. Every single person has mentioned that in their background they have knowledge, or they have created a business behind technology, right? Trying to program things, try to understand how things work in the sense of technology. That is very interesting, because that's exactly my background as well, and I have been able to successfully piece them together so tightly into a format of game making. So, and then I realized this truth, and then everything just, gets together really nicely. Every time you're able to put things together, add things up, that is the best solution that you can have for ideas. So that's why we have pattern recognition. In general, this is what makes many things much more simpler to understand, to solve generally every single problem. We use pattern recognition. But most importantly, we test ideas, right? See what kind of value it generates, see if we can conceptualize, right? We conceptualize whether we can or cannot put them together. Maybe they're the same thing. We have to have very clear ability to make definitions then. And once I have bumped into the sword of definitions, I've just immediately figured out people don't want to do it. People don't actually care about definitions. It is so ridiculous. Even at this stage of self-knowledge, actualization, people who run these things struggle themselves with definitions. And they don't actually, try to explain that definitions. The struggle that I see is just simply not recognizing that definitions are the key way to understand everything. If you don't recognize that, you cannot actually teach people much. You can give them experience, you cannot give them clear definitions, or try to settle down on good definitions that you have discovered across your lifetime. Sure, people could have some better clues, some better experience on certain definitions, but they're not defining anything. They're trying to do it intuitively, and intuition is completely opposite of what definitions are. Right? It's a completely opposite. It's the lack of definitions that intuition is, because you have to piece out. Intuition kind of fuels definitions. So yeah, when saying it's complete opposite, it's not too accurate, because you start with the definition that comes from intuition, but then you try to piece out the puzzle. Right, because you see unfinished pieces, you want to test things. So as you define things, what you simply do is you reveal the puzzle. So you're always going to see some puzzle pieces missing. Right? That's what you do when you ask questions. What does that mean? And you understand that reason is also a very key component of every single word, because that's what word's supposed to do. It has reason behind it to explain things. Right? So intuitively, what intuition tries to do is tries to make us think that we have all the puzzle pieces. Try to fill in the puzzle piece, try to not make us think that we don't know, because we would always be bothered by that. So we have to get into the state of all-knowing, like, oh, we know what God is and shit like that. We can debate shit, we can voice our opinion, but really, that's where the thing comes from. You start voicing your opinion and it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. You cannot communicate without proper definitions. That's where communication comes from, right? That's the whole purpose of communication, of proper communication, when you have clear definitions. And so far, a person who has been able to create a language was able to create a country, a whole fucking government that would expand quickly. I see it that way. I don't know who created the languages. I haven't heard of these people. Any stories, nothing. But whoever did it just created everything. Everything that is here now. Just sparked, Sparked just well enough that everything was the result of that creation of language. So imagine if we settle down on that. If there's a person that helps us settle down on everything. And that is why it blows my mind. I can actually achieve that level. I just don't know how to approach that. But if I focus on that properly, and every single time I make a board, gray board like this, I improve significantly. I as a person improve significantly. Why? Why does that fucking happen every single time? Why asking questions always levels me up so significantly? Even though I'm surrounded by so many problems that I somewhat cannot solve, but I'm not really trying to. There seem to be bigger problems that directed at me. So I have to actually observe that. It's quite interesting. It's probably one of the most interesting blackboards or gray boards I ever done, or the most revealing. Every single time I kind of come back as well to who I am, that I'm a philosopher, that I'm a game maker. I never really settle down for something that really is really powerful. And let's say I settle myself down as a leader or creative of communication, the creative of communication. But generally that's what technology was trying to do, is trying to piece out different countries together without actually need of war, right? Without need of country taking over everything else and creating World War III, even though that might still happen, right? We still haven't bought technology in a way that would completely piece us together. So we either come together as a whole, as a full community of whatever grade is gonna bind us together, and we kind of make this a plague environment where everything around us kind of either joins or has to, agree to disagree, agree to be squashed or be challenged by the ever-growing power that is unstoppable of a simply better ability to communicate, which always wins. Always wins. I mean, it doesn't matter how many men you have. That's what wins the wars, is ability to communicate. Now, an ability to deceive others, but that's where violence comes from. That's where you have to defend your ways by simply making them inaccessible somehow. So there's another piece where you have to defend yourself. It's kind of, isn't it good enough just to be able to communicate? It is true, and this might kind of derail the focus when you try to defend yourself. You try to come up with all these certain ways that actually just harm you in the end. So kind of being honest about things is actually much more powerful in self-defense. But that is just a whole nother topic, is how to be honest while self-defending, to a certain point, right? Because that's how I feel about myself. I was always trying to be honest. If I cannot say things, then I'll shut up. If I have to comply and obey orders, I will do that. I will recognize that I cannot go against the significant force that that pulls me to do certain things, but I'm not detaching from what I have to do. I'm simply doing the work that will definitely distract me, but will not take away what I have. Because it will always give more, because a smart person will always get more than he needs. That's the way I feel now. What situation I'm in. I'm getting more simply because I'm smarter in the way I distribute the resources. I don't smoke, I don't drink. That is a huge consumption of resources. Sometimes you're smart enough to find cheaper versions of that, or sometimes you're smart enough not to use that at all. So it's great, right? It's great to get into the position where you are enjoying your life and it's pretty cheap as well. That is the form of happiness that people have to achieve. Is a smart happiness. Again, this is a whole nother topic. And smart happiness means cheap, because you will have value that you will be able to invest in yourself. Stuff like that always pays off, first of all. Again, usually you're asking questions, you're making some tests, you are isolating yourself from what seems to be obvious answers. You open yourself up to everything. You become vulnerable. You become detached from the society. It's hard, but if you go through, you open your mind up and you become smart, and you are able to enjoy cheap happiness. You don't need all these crazy things that people are addicted to. You understand that you can actually easily detach from all of that and figure out what your purpose in life is. That's pretty interesting. But also you have to quickly understand, like, again, I'm picking up ideas and I'm evaluating them. That is very important. I picked up two languages saying, okay, this is such a big garbage. It didn't take off in the world. It didn't become popular. Why people use that? Because people are obeying of what culture they grew up in. It's such a bad idea to follow, to have countries still operating how they are. It's a horrible idea. So where was I? I was questioning why am I questioning myself? Why am I doing this? Why am I isolating myself? But that kind of explains, because it turns into cheap happiness. It turns into understanding of yourself. When you understand yourself, you can do things a lot more efficiently. Every single understanding makes you be a lot more efficient with the way you live. If you don't understand, you're going to be testing a lot, right? But you might not even understand what you're testing, so all of this turns into chaos. While you're being a child, you're going to be testing small-scale things. You're going to be growing up, right? You're going to be approaching life as a game, so start very simplistic, with a simple view of the world, right? You will not be overwhelmed, even though the world will constantly throw you some things. But you will not be overwhelmed with all the hell bars popping up in your eyeballs. Look, all this information that you have to learn. The person that does that, the entity that does that is cool, right? It actually tries to give you all these health bars on your eyeballs and try to distract you as much as possible by giving you way too much, way too fast. And not necessary at all. Most of the stuff I did at school, totally useless. Totally useless. It was much more useful to have interactions with other people. So that was great about school, right? You gain interactions with other people. That was exciting. There was just one lesson that was super exciting to me. Was music lessons, because I felt like I kind of belonged there. I was making cool interactions. As far as I was able to. I kind of, really miss the ability to do them better. You detach from a lot of things over time, and it really sucks. It really shouldn't happen at all. You should be attaching to things more and more and more over time. Now, you become friends, you have a relationship, it just grows and grows. It doesn't stop at any point, even if it, whatever attached two things together, it doesn't work. You shouldn't detach them, no matter what happens. But so far, that what is still a bigger deal, because people don't actually attach, perhaps. Right? Maybe it's not real. Maybe they don't understand that they do attach in some way. That has to just simply let itself grow, not make it too fast and shit. That's just a general mistake that people make. Alright. Yeah, just everything pieces out together. There had to be an entity that just forces you to learn things too fast. And then completely detach from everything. Because too much, man. Dude. Fuck me, man. I don't like this. I don't like this. You can't attach into anything because you keep on distracting. Keep on being distracted and you think, oh yeah, everything is fast. You have to do everything fast. It's okay, right? The fast way to do it is not by self-development. It's never self-development. It's a slow process. But it's the most valuable process you can ever get. You think like, oh, the society has learned so many things, right? And that's what school tried to do. Say, oh yeah, the society knows this and that and this and that. And these are the basics. But the thing is, it gained 12 years to start with. It never decreased that amount of years. Maybe it was even more or less. But the basics become even more and more basic, while we still have to spend the same amount of time. All these things have to change. World War III, guys. World War III. I know sounds pretty rough. Will you get in or will you not be in? It only depends on self-commitment, right? To develop yourself into a new language, into a new system. Can you do it? Right? Can you understand that this is a much better idea? it can actually replace, and people don't want to replace things. It's really difficult for them because they solve the problem, right? If they replace things, they're like, oh man, now I have to choose over and over again. So yeah, that's how it works. Cool gray board. I wish I can make something out of it, and I'll focus on Tribute for Minecraft, because the best game ever, man. The best game ever. Let's do it.